So, gaming's in a pretty bad place right now. I have to admit, I rarely get excited for the next new releases because the industry is in a fight with itself with its own political standpoints. And a lot of the time you seem to see in modern game development that the political statements take priority over actual gameplay. And that's where the problem lies. I predict we have about 4 years of rubbish AAA games to wade through until we see the other side. You see, 4 years ago, the whole world was in a different state culturally. So what we're seeing releasing is the aftermath of a 4-year development cycle with the trends gradually changing and people's opinions generally flipping. Developers have been working in the background creating games they thought gamers wanted 4 years ago, only to be ridiculed by the anti-woke gamers, which is pretty much 80% of gamers. We just want good games, not lectures. Usually I try to remain impartial on this channel, but due to the topic of gaming being close to my heart, I'm going to lay my full uncensored opinion on the subject down. So if you're easily offended, then maybe give this one a miss. If not, then drop a comment and tell me why I'm wrong. But before all that, remember to drop a like, follow me on Patreon to become part of every video going forward, and of course, subscribe. The gaming industry is the largest entertainment business in the world, having a value that is the equivalent of the music and film industry combined. So why can't the biggest of the biggest turn a profit anymore? To answer such an apparent divisive question, let's take a look back at some of the most beloved and successful games in the past 20 years and who these people may appeal to. First of all, let's start with the obvious, Grand Theft Auto. Now, a lot of you probably never played the original top-down shooters from 1997, but luckily I have. I even have my original copy with the cheat codes written inside. I was just a young buck when it was released, but my memories of the game were littered with inappropriate content, swearing, violence, and well, Grand Theft Auto. So let's fast forward a little bit to GTA 3, highly controversial from the conception with multiple criticisms from the global media, but praised among the gaming media and community to be one of the greatest games to exist at the time, as it was revolutionary in graphics, gameplay and story. On to other GTA releases all the way to GTA 5, they've always been known for one thing, and that is they would pull no punches, and in a very South Park way, no one is safe from the ridicule. They're not known from the left or right leaning, but just for jokes, fun and violence. And that kind of is the point of all of these games. Well anyway, I don't really need to explain GTA for the universe. On to the next game. Call of Duty. Also, because I'm old, I'm referring to the golden era of Call of Duty, which most people agree to be from 2007 to 2013, which is COD 4 to Black Ops 2. If you would disagree with this, then you are definitely under the age of 25, no argument. So what's Call of Duty based around? War, grit, guns, violence, competition, and fast-paced action. Call of Duty was a different beast to what we have now. The only thing COD has going for it now is the fundamental gameplay that still makes it COD. A lot of people hate the season passes, ridiculous costumes, the constant badgering for microtransactions and censorship we have in the newer games. For a game that is 18 plus, don't you think it's been more and more increasingly aimed at kids? Like, why the fuck do I want to run around looking like a fucking shark or Nicki Minaj? What people loved about the older CODs was the simplicity and the gameplay. But hey, that's me going on another tangent. Next franchise, Assassin's Creed. Again, I'm going to be referring to mostly the franchise up to the gameplay shift in Origins. The original AC game with Altair was groundbreaking when it was released. I remember being completely head over heels for it because it was completely different to any other game I'd played at the time. Amazing graphics, open world, decent story, detailed environments with what seemed to be plenty of things to do. You play as the epic assassins wearing a hood and using parkour to traverse around, full of action. But the series really came alive when they introduced Ezio Auditore da Firenze in AC2, easily one of the most beloved characters in gaming. He's brash, smart, deadly, cunning, a womanizer and wise. Throughout his trilogy, you see him grow and change as the events of his life warp him from devastation to redemption. He is a great character. So what do all these games have in common? They're all targeted towards an audience and gave that audience what they wanted. These games, for the whole part, were made for the male demographic, all male protagonists, male-related storylines, male-centric reviews, and ultimately prioritise world building and characters to fit inside the expectations of the male mind, aka their target audience. I'm not saying that women didn't enjoy these games, but the overwhelming majority of players of these games were in fact men. According to NPR.org, around only 15% of women are actually a fan of GTA Online. Due to its nature, similarly, only 20% of the current player base for Call of Duty is female. On the flip of a coin, The Sims currently has a 60-40 split, with the majority being women. So why can't developers of the current day see that if you want to sell games, you need to find a market and give them what they want? Men want different things to women, and that's fine. In the current state of the gaming industry, there's been somewhat of a takeover, especially in the Western world, with the introduction of DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion. This can be seen by the clear-cut numbers from the recruitment drives of popular game studios and the outrageous fees consultancy firms are claiming in the name of fairness, apparently. In the gaming industry, 70% of the workforce are male, with 30% being female, which is a statistic which should actually be meaningless because in the gaming industry the only thing that should truly matter is the end product, and the team behind it must align with the audience they're serving. Unfortunately, the industry is in a political dilemma where there is pressure to please the left-leaning media to the detriment of the developers, with the priority being gender equalities, representations and racial bias, instead of good storytelling, great characters and interesting worlds. That, in an effort to appeal to the minority and exclude the vast majority, the majority actually perpetuated these games and developers to their previous successes. Let's look at the biggest flop of 2024, Dragon Age Veilguard. Commercially, an absolute failure, selling somewhere around 1 million copies. For scale, it needs around 6 million to break even, which is pretty unlikely, even with it being on sale for almost 24/7 at this point. The game is surrounded by clearly fake paid reviews and gender politics that do not belong in an RPG epic. So why did it fail? The developers thought that throwing a message in the face of the consumers was far more important in their game about a fantasy land that involves an immersive adventure. 2 years ago, there was a poll conducted on Reddit on the subreddit r/Dragon Age about demographics, which was quite a showing of the audience playing Dragon Age. It managed to obtain 1104 responses, so an okay representation of the audience, I would say. It shows that under gender, 84.1% of gamers are male and female, with 16% choosing the other options. Based off these demographics, how does it make sense to create your game so heavily skewed to the minority demographic? And secondly, use your game as an attack on your previous audience. The rise of DEI consultancy firms has been a huge hit for quality in the gaming sector over the past 4 years. Sweet Baby Inc. and the likes. They've been a parasite on the sector as a whole, historically tanking most games they've been a part of by forcing companies to adapt to the worldview that they see fit and what they think is suitable for the modern audience. There seems to be a trend that comes from Hollywood and the left-leaning views that has infected the gaming industry, where they think that every game has to be an artistic message showing their allegiances. As gamers, we just want good games, honestly. I want good stories, I want fun, and I want interesting characters. I don't want a 12-hour snooze fest and a grilling for not seeing the world the same way some DEI consultant does. Companies like Sweet Baby Inc., Elance and DEI are just a few leeches that bully gaming industries into using their services to enhance their understanding of the failings inside their own companies. When it comes to diversity hires, that is, racial bias and other made up buzzwords to make the average person feel like shit about themselves. They want to abolish the meaning of normal because normal is offensive to these people. But the fact is, normality would be pretty fucking refreshing at this point. Most normal people don't have enough time in the day to even care about this kind of stuff. Anyone with half a life just wants media that is entertaining to them, and that's what these people hate. They want everyone to think the same and pay them millions for a training course to tell you you're a piece of shit for wanting things that are actually good. What tends to happen with these DEI consultants get involved is that they take a piece of media that may be targeted towards a certain audience and skew it to their vision, something that only 1% of the population can even relate to. And when everyone hates what they've put out, they just come and blame the audience that once loved the franchise but are now being labelled as misogynists and racists. When you create a new piece of media in the universe you're writing for, the fans have a level of expectation of what may happen. For instance, I wouldn't expect Barbie to go on a murderous rampage and start a war with North Korea. So why is it acceptable to make me play as a black samurai or a female ninja in the universe of Assassin's Creed? Two people that are just a complete break of immersion for the time period. Yes, I understand that AC is a fictional story, but why does this DI thing only work one way? Why is it okay to insult a huge area of Asia, which resulted in a massive racially charged backlash from the people of Japan, claiming for cultural appropriation? And yet, why do we not see this being reported on by mainstream media? Our Western media channels are completely biased towards the agenda. That's why. DEI is a net negative on everything it touches, and the consumer has had just about enough of it. I Are things starting to change in the world? Well, it seems yes, and I think in a good way. The normal, ordinary person is starting to find their voice recently and is starting to act out about all of this nonsense. A clear shift can be seen by the re-election of Trump, perhaps showing that more of a right-leaning view is held by the majority of people, and the radical left no longer seems to have a grasp of reality and instead using their platforms to throw shade at their audiences. Hence why we see celebrities like Rachel Zegler constantly in the firing line by expressing their out-of-touch views of the world when things simply don't go their way. I think the shift comes from the public realising that they indeed do hold the cards within the entertainment industry, with a lot of people choosing to vote with their wallets, because that is the best way to hurt a company, hit them in the bottom line. I can only speak for myself on this issue, but I've had about enough recently. They can cope all they want. When Marvel was going down the pan during the MCU phase, they blamed superhero fatigue instead of poorly written girl boss stories for the past 5 years. So explain Deadpool and Wolverine. In the process of the DEI recruitment drive, we have lost valuable knowledge and craftsmanship in favour of box ticking. This shows when you read that the team making AC Shadows are first timers. Having never made a game before, how does that make sense? Why are the best people not getting the correct jobs? With game studios like Cliffhanger Games, the creators of whatever the Validate was and an upcoming Black Panther game is openly saying that they don't hire white people. You know, we've steered far too far from the path. Also, how is this not literally the definition of racism? Luckily, these things are starting to be called out for what they are, a double standard. We're even seeing huge wins by seeing the closure of the developers Firewalk Studios of disgraced woke game Concord and the trashing online that Dustborn received. It looks like Naughty Dog's new game Interactive will suffer a similar fate, seeming as the trailer got ratioed into oblivion. The people that defend these actions are also one of the reasons these games fail. Most of them don't even buy the game, and some aren't even gamers in the first place. They just push the narrative online by telling gamers what they should and shouldn't like. If these developers want to throw away their majority audience, then show us your new one, because we're yet to find the modern audience. So why will it take 4 years to get back on track? Well, it's simple. The shift is taking place now, and well, money talks. It's clear to see that these new releases from AAA game studios just ain't working. So there has to be a shake-up eventually. Once that shake-up takes place, and we get the right people and the attitudes in the right roles, we will start to see development that course corrects into something the audience wants again. But game development takes time, like a lot of time. So knowing that it took AC Shadows 4 years to develop, my estimate is we'll start to see something decent in around the same time. But hey, at least we have a huge backlog of the best games to ever exist. I won't lie, the biggest worry I have for the next year is GTA 6. We've all waited forever for this game, and over at Rockstar/Take-Two, they lost 3 of the most important people. Mark Unsworth, the VP of writing, ex-director Laszlo Jones, and Dan Houser, a co-founder. Along with this news, there are several reports of workings between a DEI consultant working with the team, and they've released a statement saying they're asking its writers to be less crude towards transgender people and other minorities, the common targets of throwaway gags in previous versions. This just goes against everything GTA stands for, surely. Anyway, that may be another video in itself, I don't know. So after that rant is kind of over, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I felt like I had to make this piece for myself because I do love the gaming industry. I've been a gamer all my life. It's an industry that I'll continue to partake in, obviously. So yeah, if you like what you see, hit subscribe, support me on Patreon, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.